Richard, good morning, man. Good to have you on. I want to start with what's going on with recruiting. I don't think when did Landon Rogers commit? We hadn't had a chance to talk to you since he recommitted, correct?
Yeah, he actually recommitted shortly after we talked last Thursday. So it wasn't a big surprise in talking to him and what I'd heard before that he just thought that he kind of made a rush decision. He basically made his decision the same day that he got the offer, and he committed, and he just felt like that he needed to kind of back off and rethink things. And when he did, he realized that he's always wanted to be a Razorback, and that's why he jumped back on board.
Richard, on that note, when you have a kid like Rogers, who I'm assuming grew up a Razorback fan, and they finally get that offer, they finally get that call, they finally get that text, and they're like, man, I got to do this now, I want to get it. How often do you see guys kind of rethink things when it's not just Arkansas, but they get letters from Kansas, they get letters from other schools that they might have interest in, they're like, oh, I might have to actually debate this a little bit?
Yeah, usually in-state guys, they usually don't do that. But I think in his case, he was probably maybe a little frustrated that he couldn't take any other visits. And he was maybe thinking if he decommitted, he could maybe the NCAA would open things up and he could visit other college campuses. But I think he just, at the end of the day, regardless of whether he wanted to visit other schools or not, it just came down to him just his desire to be a Razorback, and I think when his teammate, and he didn't say it swayed him back to Arkansas, but when Aaron Outley committed to Arkansas, I think that helped a little bit too.
Yeah, we're starting to see even 2022s, commit. And we're going to get to that conversation, but we've always talked about the importance of Central Arkansas and players from there, and you mentioned Outley and Rogers. And I think you're starting to see kind of a rebuilding of Central Arkansas football. We know in 7A that Bryant and North Little Rock have played in a couple of state championship games. Darrell Patton's now coaching back at the highest level in Central Arkansas with a new high school there at Southwest. It seems like the coaching's coming up. The schools are investing in more assistant coaches. Is that a correct opinion, a correct evaluation? Will that result in more players coming from the public school system in Central Arkansas over the next 3 to 5 years that Arkansas will be able to recruit? Will this produce more SEC level, Division I level, or FBS level players?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And you hit on Bryant. Central Arkansas has really upped their game as far as facilities and investments into the programs. And I think that you see that obviously all through Central Arkansas, but the Little Rock School District is really what Arkansas fans ought to be excited about, because what they're doing there is pretty remarkable. You're starting to see, obviously Little Rock Parkview with Aaron Outley and Landon Rogers, and they have another young man that's got an offer from Arkansas. You didn't see that 10, 15 years ago, and you're starting to see more kids get on the field and out of the hallway, and participate in football, and that's because Little Rock School District understands the significance of what athletics can do to the Little Rock School District and bring attention to this district and get more kids involved. And the numbers are vastly are much greater right now in the Little Rock School District than what they've been in the past. I've probably 8, 9 years ago, I would go to a Little Rock School District game and see 25 to 30 kids on the sidelines. Now you're seeing Little Rock Parkview had around 60 last year. I think they're going to be above that probably this year. I know that Little Rock Central's numbers are way up, and then the new Southwest High School in Little Rock, the numbers, I think they got around 160 kids, 9 through 12. which is amazing. Obviously, they combined at Little Rock McClellan and Little Rock Fair, but that's Daryl Patton's just doing a great job. But with that, but you also got to give the superintendent of the school district a lot of credit. He's emphasizing athletics, and you're seeing that pay off. And I don't think you're going to see a retreat from that.
What I hear you saying, these were kids that were walking the halls, not kids that had been chosen basketball over football and are now coming back to football. These were student athletes that weren't athletes. They were just not playing sports because no one had reached out to them. They didn't find it to be fun. For whatever reason, they had not went down the path of athletics, and now they're being engaged in that, because before there weren't enough coaches, there weren't enough facilities. Now Little Rock's made that investment, and they're getting these kids out of the halls and into the gym.
Absolutely, and that's and I said the superintendent, Michael Poor. I mean, his background, he used to be at Bentonville.
Right.
He saw what Bentonville, what a good athletic program does to a school district like Bentonville, and he's brought that to Little Rock. And there's been some resistance from certain groups or whatever, but I'm telling you, I honestly gave up on Little Rock School District. I really did, because it was depressing going to some of their games, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And I remember how the Little Rock School District at one time was really the center of Arkansas high school football. That's where most of your Razorbacks came from, and as far as signees and a lot of other kids signing with other schools. And Michael Poor is reinvested in the athletic program, and you're seeing it pay off.
Yeah, Richard, and I think it's important. We're talking recruiting with Richard Davenport here on the Morning Rush. The capital of your state can't lack football talent if you're in the SEC, right? Like that's unheard of. I mean, you go across the SEC teams, typically the capital city is one of the more hot spots when it comes to football talent. So like you're saying, the fact that it used to be so prevalent, so there's used to be so many kids that went up to Arkansas, and not only Arkansas, but outside of the state as far as football goes, it looks like there's positive news coming out of Central Arkansas when it comes to how the high school football is trending down there. And how important is that?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you used to get anywhere from 4 to 6 kids back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. You used to get anywhere from 3 to 6 kids from Central Arkansas, from the Little Rock School District, not just Central Arkansas. And now you got the suburbs that are producing kids. And if you can get Little Rock back to just getting 2 to 4 kids a year, that just makes your job as the Arkansas football coach that much easier. And if you could get, and I think it's a possibility. We're seeing it in the 22 class. You already got 9 guys in state that have offers, and I think you're going to see more go out in the future. But if you can continue to produce, 10 to 12 kids a year for SEC, that are capable of playing SEC football in state, instead of having maybe 5 or 6, that just makes your job that much easier, and you don't have to go out of state to get that talent.
Richard, you've been doing this a long time. The level of football talent in this state, where does it stack up to 20, maybe even 30 years ago?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's getting there, because probably 20, 30 years ago, you didn't have that many guys from Northwest Arkansas on a consistent basis being looked at as Division I. You had some, but not. I don't think the numbers like they are right now. And now, when you're seeing Little Rock School District and Central Arkansas kind of up their game, and seeing the amount of athletes are coming out and have the potential to play Division I, it may be on up there. Now, I don't think that you have as many kids playing just because of the climate around the safety of football, but. I just tend to think that if it's not relevant, if it's not going to, it doesn't have the numbers that maybe it did 20, 30 years ago. I think it's getting close.
All right, let's go to the scoreboard again with Landon Rogers back in the 21 class. That takes the scoreboard to 17, right? 17 commitments.
17, correct.
And then we got to keep it separate. The 2022 class now has 1, right?
Yeah, J.J. Hollingsworth from Greenland, 6'4", about 250 pounds, defensive end, defensive tackle. I think he'll grow into a defensive tackle. Kid always wanted to be a Razorback, rooted for the Razorbacks. And you got several guys in the 22 class that grew up rooting for the Razorbacks, and I think that, most of them will eventually probably be Razorbacks. So I think that's looking promising.
They ever had 17, before camp time started? You ever remember a year they were this far ahead of the curve going in before practice started?
Yeah, I'd have to do some research, but that is pretty impressive considering obviously no on-campus visits since March the 13th. Kid that really hasn't stopped kids from making decisions because a lot of them want to save, get a spot and save it because coaches I'm sure remind them, hey, we're taking 2 tight ends, and if we're full, we're full, so it kind of gets a kid to think, well, I probably need to get my spot. But for 17 right now, and I think last year they stood around 14 about this time.
Talking with Richard Davenport here on the Morning Rush. Richard, we got a text in from Steven. If you have a question for Richard, it's 877-377-6963 about Jordan Hanna out of Greenwood, 3-star linebacker. He's got an offer to Southern Miss. What are Arkansas's chances or Jordan's chances of ending up at Arkansas?
Well, I think he was a guy that is being hurt because of the no college camps. I always thought that if he could show up at the Arkansas camp, the usual Arkansas camp in June, and show out and run a good time, I think he might have had an opportunity. But he's one of those guys that I think is being hurt because of what's going on with the coronavirus. He'll have to have an outstanding season. Hopefully, the governor will see that. See fit to have a season this fall, and he could open up some eyes. I like his film, I really do. I think he's got a chance. He's just one of those 21 kids that's being really, really hurt because of what's going on with the virus.
Already got a brother on the team, and I don't know if he get a walk-on opportunity, but he might be a preferred walk-on possibility as well.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they take him there with that. But he's impressive on film. He played mostly stand up defensive end last year, but they're moving him to linebacker. I think that's going to help his odds of landing more offers. But as a stand up defensive end, he was kind of undersized, but he was very effective.
His brother Morgan's already in the program.
Yeah, walk on up there. Richard, I want to shift the conversation to basketball real quick before we let you go. I think people are getting a little antsy with the 2021 class. You're coming off a top 5 basketball class, maybe even top 4, top 3 if you add in the grad transfers. What's going on with this 2021 basketball class that is yet to have a commit?
Well, I think, where in football it really hasn't had a major impact as far as getting commitments. I think in basketball it has. The kids obviously are doing virtual tours and stuff like that, but and when you're dealing with kids that are highly recruited, top 50, top 75 prospects in the country, which Coach Musselman and his staff are, those guys are usually a little slower to pull the trigger. I'd also kind of point towards the 22 class in basketball. You got 5 guys that have offers in state that have offers from Arkansas. As of right now, you'll have 3 seniors going into the season. Now, obviously, if something happens with Isaiah, that would free up a scholarship if he decided to leave it at some point. But I don't think you want to go too crazy in the 21 class because you got that 22 class coming up with a lot of talent, and you want to save some scholarships. And at least that's just my opinion.
last basketball question, Richard, before we let you go. Isaiah Joe, I didn't realize, man, it's July 30th. Isaiah has till August 3rd to make a decision if he's going to come back to school or not. And I know that we talked about earlier, Sam Vecini found out that technically, even if he decided to come back to school, he can re-enter the NBA draft before August 17th. I know you have a relationship with Derek, him, and his family. What's the latest you're hearing on Isaiah's decision with his future at Arkansas?
I've always been consistent in saying I thought he was going to come back, and I was pretty confident about that. I think the longer this goes, the less confidence I have in saying that. But I don't, obviously nothing's been made public about what he plans to do. But the longer it goes on, you start to think, well, the possibility of maybe him going. Leaving is definitely there. So I'm not going to say it's a for sure thing that he would leave, but the longer this goes on, I start to have my doubts that he'll come back. But I wouldn't shut that door either.
Richard, before we let you go, man, it is National Chili Dog Day. Are you going to celebrate? And if you are, what place are you going to?
I love chili dogs, but they're not good for my diet. So I don't know. I'll have to think long and hard on that. Usually, I'm kind of like you. I usually cheat on the weekend. But man, I tell you what, I don't think I can cheat as much as you with some of the lists you throw out. A lot of these places I've never eaten at, man.
Yeah, it was funny. What did you say? I had to get I'm eventually gonna have to get a gastronic bypass. What's it called?
Yeah, something like that, or what's the thing that wraps around your stomach too? The band, yeah, the band,
the sleeve,
Yeah.
It's probably going to happen. Well, Richard, really appreciate you always, man. It's also National Cheesecake Day, so if you don't get a chili dog, go get you some cheesecake.
Oh God, you're killing me, man! You're killing me.
All right, buddy. Always good to talk. Talk next week.
I'll see you.